Hey, I am Allison Stan, and if you are watching this video right now, you asked for more information about the MTHFR gene and the methylation process and what it is that I'm learning about the nutrition for people with the MTHFR gene. So let me give you a quick background. I promise this video will be no more than 10 minutes long. And at the end, you'll get an opportunity, if you'd like, to send me your email address. I will give you a free newsletter that I have for you with 5 healthy tips for changing your lifestyle to help you feel better, and a link with an invitation to a webinar that I will be hosting this week. And in that webinar, promise I'll keep it short. I'll try to stick to 20 minutes. You don't have to come on screen, but in that webinar, I will be discussing genetic action plans for people with the MTHFR gene mutations, detoxification of the body for people, and also personalized supplements that are methylated so that your body can absorb them. So if that sounds like interest to you, you can go ahead and reply to this video with your email, and I will make sure you get the information within the next 48 hours. There's lots of people that are interested right now, and it is my great pleasure to help. So who am I and what the heck am I doing talking about the methylation process? So for the last 10 years, I've been working in the field of nutrition, working with clients to help them look better, feel better, and perform better. And in that process, I've learned a whole heck of a lot about genetics. And so my previous life, I received 3 bachelor's of science degrees, and then went for 10 years studying for my master's of science. And I specialized in microbiology and molecular biology, specifically to understand human disease and disorders. And I decided that what I could do best is to teach others what I know. And so I went into the field of education for 20 years. So you may catch a little bit of teacher-like qualities in this video, but I have since retired from teaching, and I work with clients on their nutrition using genetic action plans to help them with a wide variety of lifestyle changes from fitness to nutrition. And so I am interested specifically for you helping the 42% of the population that knows nothing about the MTHFR gene or feels frustrated because their medical provider needs to go study. I've seen a lot of those comments in this group that I'm talking to somebody, but they've got to go study. Well, why don't we cut to the chase and talk with somebody that's done a lot of research? And I have a huge team of scientists behind me that know the information. So what I have learned has not just been through reading, it has been through a team of scientists that work with this and a molecular lab. So it's not all my own information. Okay, so let me cut to the chase. You want to know a little bit more about the methylation process. So let's just start from the beginning for a few moments. Maybe you're just finding out you have the MTHFR gene mutation. You may have found out that you've got the 1298 or you have the C677. And you may or may not have read your report and know that you've got 2 copies on one or 2 copies on the other. There's 16 different versions of this particular gene mutation, and a few of them, a child will never actually be born because of the complications to the nervous system. Those fetuses don't make it because they don't fully develop. So not everyone is born with the maximum, actually no one's born with the maximum amount of the gene mutation. So let's talk about the MTHFR gene. So this is all about methylation, and methylation happens in every single cell of the body. And so the MTHFR gene is really considered to be a super gene because it works in at every cell of the body. So I was going to say so many cells, but it's literally every cell. So let's talk a little bit about that for a second. Why should you care about this methylation process? Well, methylation, being that it's a super gene, it's going to convert folate, which is B9, into a biologically active form called L-methylfolate, or 5-MTHF. So you may already be familiar with that and have been told you need to take methylated vitamins. That's fine. But you may not understand that by not taking those supplements or by not making changes to your lifestyle and making them healthier, you could still be accumulating homocysteine in your blood. Your immune system may not be properly functioning. You may not be metabolizing B6 and B12. And what I hear a lot from clients when they come to me is, I've got gut issues. I've got hormone issues. I have mood issues. I've got weird things that the doctors are saying it's like I have fibromyalgia, or it's like I have lupus, or it's like I have Crohn's disease, but I don't quite test positive for that. Well, that all is an indicator to me that you may or may not have the MTHFR gene. So here's what we want to talk about. In the methylation process, you should be getting checked on a regular basis for homocysteine levels. Those are protein levels in the blood. And I'm going to, in my next webinar, really talk a little bit more about what unregulated high homocysteine levels can do for the body. Now, I'm going to say this now, please remember it, that just because you have the genes for MTHFR does not mean you are destined to develop all of the possible side effects. I have a phrase, your DNA loads the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger. So as long as you're regulating and constantly checking your homocysteine levels, you're aware of your risk factors for certain diseases like deep vein blood clots, stroke, or coronary artery disease. I'll go more into that in my next webinar. Okay. The methylation process in every single cell for women, it also affects their pregnancy. So sometimes women are not able to develop a fetus. They have a lot of miscarriages, and that all goes back to the development of the nervous system of the fetus, because B9 plays a major role in the nervous system. And if that is not being metabolized by the mother, then the fetus is not getting that nutrition, and therefore the nervous system does not properly function, and the body has its own self mechanism of checking, and it will lead to miscarriage. I've also learned that there's a lot of other things with the reproductive system that can be linked to the MTHFR gene. Again, if you're dealing with PCOS or other things, this is for the ladies, you may want to find out how much of the MTHFR variant you have. Okay, let's talk about a few other things that you want to be aware of. You do want to know how much of the genes that you have. Do you have one copy of the C677 and no copies on the 1298? Do you have a copy on the C677 and a copy on the 1298? Are you good on the C677, but you have some copies or double copies on the 1298C? So that will help me understand what percentage of loss of function you have in the methylation process. And depending on your loss of function, you may be at a higher risk for other side effects of having this variation. Okay, let's talk about hormones. You may not know this, but MTHFR plays a huge role in all of the hormones in the body, your happy hormones, your stress hormones, your fear and anger hormones, your pleasure and reward hormones. So I come from an Irish family, and it's common to say, oh, that person has an Irish temper, but it may be that they have the MTHFR gene, and those fear and anger hormones are exacerbated. And so it's common to see people with mood swings or not handle stress as well, because the imbalances in the body, it triggers their stress, their emotional situations, and they react a little bit more than the average person. But what can make this worse is poor diet and toxic environmental exposure. So in my next video, I'm going to talk about, well, what is toxicity from our environment, from our daily living? How does that play a role in the MTHFR gene? Other things that I want to talk about in the next webinar is there are certain foods that are very high in folate and other foods that you should be completely eliminating and avoiding because they're acting like toxins in the body, regardless of whether or not you're supplementing with a methylated vitamin. If you're constantly bringing toxins into the body, you're not monitoring the types of foods that you're eating, you're going to have what I call reach a critical threshold where all those toxins are building up from the foods in the environment. And eventually the body's going to say, hey, I've had enough. And now all these other symptoms are coming up, which may in fact be the reason that led you down this path to discover you had the MTHFR gene variants because of the toxicity levels. So I want to give you some tools to help you with that, or at least point you in the right direction. So the other things I want you to be aware of is your MTHFR gene does play a role in your B6 and your B12 absorption. So we want to make sure that your energy is great, that your nervous system is operating correctly, your hormone systems are operating correctly, your immune system is operating correctly, and your filters of your body are operating correctly. So in the next video, I will go into a little bit more information, but what I've learned in the world of nutrition is that there is hope. There are lifestyle changes that you can make. I have several clients that even after a few days of making those healthy changes, their energy is different, their mood is different. They're no longer coming home and crashing on the couch every day after work. They're just living life better. And so I'm happy to share that with you. So I will share you 5 of those tips for you in an email. So after this video, just respond in the message with your email address. I promise I'm not going to spam you. I promise that. And then I'll also send you the link for the webinar that I'm going to host later this week. So I would like to host the webinar on Friday evening and also Saturday afternoon. So I will do it twice because I understand some people may be working in the evenings or have plans. And then I'll also host a second one on Saturday afternoon. So watch for those details in your email. And then on that webinar, I'm also going to point you to some tools, and I'll give you a little preview. I do work with clients personalizing their nutrition based on their DNA. All of the supplementation that I work with is methylated so that they can absorb it correctly. And that's really fun. It comes with a free health report. The second tool that I use with clients is I give them a tool to help them detox their body. And for some of you, you may have many variants and you may need to do the detox as a lifestyle. So I can share that with you as well if you're interested. And then the other thing, you may have an incomplete genetic report. You may not really understand it. I use what's called a genetic action plan. I take your genetic information and we put it into this genetic action plan, and it actually gives you everything that I'm telling you about in writing. It's a 64-page action plan, and it also comes with a 46-page medical report so that you can hand it to your medical providers and your team so that they can educate themselves. You know, it's one thing to say, hey, go check this out. But it's another thing to understand that our medical profession, they simply do not have the time to pour through all of the genetic research that is coming out about MTHFR. They did not have enough time when they were in medical school to even understand basic nutrition other than eat the food. So they're undereducated in this department, which is why there is tons of coaches out there working in nutrition, because this is our sole focus and we know what we're doing. And just to be transparent, no, I'm not a registered dietitian. I don't need to be, because I partner with an entire team of doctors and medical professionals so that what I'm recommending is not my opinion. It is recommended based on 15,000 different third-party peer-reviewed, constantly updated databases with all these medical journals. So I'm one person, I can't read 15,000 reports all the time. So I use those tools, which you don't even know exist, but now you do. So I'm Allison. It's been a great pleasure to bring this information to you. I hope that was helpful in educating you a little bit. And I have more videos to come, more webinars to come. I do work one-on-one with clients to help them with those tools I mentioned. If that's something that's of interest, feel free to let me know as well. I do that by appointment. So happy to help in any way I can. If you just need free information, I'm your girl. If you'd like some additional personal coaching, I'm your girl. And if you're interested in those tools, I will be happy to share what those are in our webinar, as well as provide more information to help you better understand the MTHFR gene. So hang in there. There is hope. It is possible to feel better. I promise you that. I've seen lots of results. Really the ball is in your court to pull the trigger on making some of those lifestyle changes. So let's talk about that in the next webinar. And thank you. Let me know if this was helpful.